Will not stop barking. There we go. There goes the notification. I don't know what just happened. All right, here we go. Stop barking. Test 1, 2, 3. Hear it. There we go. There goes the notification. Oh, man. That's just, oh, it's so irritating. I don't know why the dog will not stop barking, and the owners won't, they don't do anything for it. That dog, it, oh man, this is so irritating. That dog barks literally around the clock. 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. If I'm up here in the studio, I just hear it bark, bark. And I don't want to get irritated because dogs bark. I understand that. And I love animals. But man, when you're trying to sit here in front of this microphone and you want to talk about that which is important, you don't want a dog barking its head off in the background. You just don't. And there's no way for me to fix that problem. There's no way other than if I build some kind of soundproof thing around this table, but I don't have the ability to do that. But it is very frustrating if I'm being honest with you, all right? Some days it gets to me more than others, but like right now, it's pretty irritating. And right now, I'm not happy about that. But hopefully he will stop barking, and I'm just not going to worry about it because there's nothing I can do because I got other things to talk about, all right? So, all right. Oh man, see, it's just going to bark. I've got to try to ignore it. I got to put it out of my head and I got to focus on the microphone in front of me, the words in my mind, and I need to speak and just let whatever happens in the background happens. I cannot control it. I have no say so in it, right? Maybe I'll try to turn it in. I'll try to bring it into an illustration if I can, all right? But yeah, is there a, hang on. I did this earlier. I don't think the phone is out here. Okay. I don't think so. Make sure that's closed. All right. Oh, that poor dog. On one hand, I feel bad for the dog. On the other hand, I feel bad for myself. Okay. All right. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This.
Hey, I'm going to stop that. Something weird went down there. I don't know. Things were not play. Hang on. We'll stop that. I'm going to back that up. All right, we'll try that again. Hang on. Is everything working correctly? Oh, that was weird. Everything kind of froze up there. All right. We'll try this again. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, we will go live a second time, but the first one doesn't count. This is take 2. All right. We will go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central podcast, making theology central.
Wow. What a day. I don't really know what to even say or where to begin. I do know this. There's a dog barking its full head off right next to, well, to where the studio is located. And that's probably going to add irritation to this. But, you know, maybe the dog barking, we can make it represent something allegorically in this episode. I don't know. But if you hear that, know that I'm just as irritated by it as you will be, okay? But the dog is barking, but it has been one of those days, a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts. And I think, well, that's what we're going to talk about, right? So I guess first what I need to say is good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, December the 21st. That means it's 4 days before Christmas. December the 21st, 2025. It is currently 6:10 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio. I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio Yeah, can I say anything right this evening? I don't know. Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, December the 21st. That makes it 4 days before Christmas. It is December the 21st, 2025. It is now 6:10 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. I do apologize for that, but it captures kind of like my feeling right now. So here I sit in the studio. It's getting kind of dark in the studio because the sun is setting behind me here in West Texas. And it's Sunday evening, and there's just a lot of feelings and emotions for a lot of reasons, okay? Now earlier today, if you listened to the broadcast this morning, I did a theological Christmas. I talked about Christmas, but from a more theological perspective. And I just want you to know this episode is not that. I'm not going to be looking at this so much from a theological perspective. This is not about me teaching anything. This is not about me trying to unpack scripture in some kind of a structured way. This is me just, in a sense, thinking out loud about something that feels very real, not just to me right now, but probably to a lot of people. And I think I can phrase it in a simple question. Why does Christmas seem to carry more emotional weight than any other time of the year? Why does it carry that weight? Now, I could look at my situation and there's some things going on behind the scenes that I think would explain why there's some emotional weight. But I think the emotional weight is even stronger because because it's Christmas time, and it just seems to make all of the emotions stronger. For example, if you hear the dog barking in the background, that dog barks all the time, right? And I notice it, and it can be sometimes irritating, but a lot of times I just not even paying attention. I'm going about doing whatever I want to do. The dog may be barking. I may notice it for a second, but I'm like, whatever. But you feel it, or I feel it more. I get more irritated. I get more bothered by that dog barking in the background when I'm sitting here in front of the microphone, right? And we all know sometimes things bother you more based on what's going on, the situation you find yourself. And I think we all have strong emotions. Doesn't matter if it's January, February, June, or August, right? But there are certain times that those emotions are intensified, or they just seem to be made stronger by something else. And for this time of year, it's because it is Christmas, right? So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. At 2 p.m. today, I met the remaining members of Victory Baptist Church. We met at the building, Victory Baptist Church, located in the middle of nowhere, Texas. You heard me say that for years. And we all walked into the building. It's completely empty. There's nothing left there. We stood in the empty sanctuary. The pulpit's gone, the cross on the wall is gone, everything's gone. The pews are gone, the hymn books are gone, everything's gone. And we stood in a circle, and everyone kind of talked about their memories, their feelings, their what they remember. They were thankful for all the teaching and how much they learned. Some of them offered apologies if they felt like they let me down as a member. I expressed my gratitude for them letting me be me for almost 25 years, 23, 24 years. They let me be me. I apologize to them for all of my failures and all the ways in which I failed and messed up. It was very emotional. I'm getting emotional even talking about it. And it was kind of our goodbye, right? The church is done. If everything goes right on Tuesday, the close of the sale of the building will occur. The building will be sold. And it kind of brings it to an end. And it would always feel strong. It would always be emotional. But I think there's something about it being at Christmas time that even makes it stronger in some ways. Because if you can read articles about it, about the holiday, depression and suicide rates. And sometimes the information is not completely accurate, but there is at least a general consensus that the holidays can intensify emotion in a very, very strong way. And it carries more emotional weight than any other time of the year. I think there's some accuracy in that. And it's not just happiness. Some people may feel a greater sense of happiness and warmth during this time of year, but it can also be sadness. It can be loneliness. You can be lonely in August, but there is something about being lonely in December, getting close to Christmas. I think that loneliness goes from maybe 70 on the scale to like 150. I know I'm utilizing just a larger number for hyperbole, but you get the point. Grief can be bad any time of the year, but I think grief can be even worse when you get close to Christmas. Regret. Oh, you can have regrets, but man, you get close to Christmas, that regret just seems to be like a knife just stabbing you in the heart. And despair and depression, it's even more intense. I could tell all kinds of stories, but I think there's a truth to that. So the end of a church is emotional at any time, but putting the end of the church this close to Christmas is strong. Now, there could be positives that come out of it for me, like if the building is sold and everything goes right, the way it's supposed to work is they're going to pay off the rest of my mortgage. Well, that is an amazing gift. What a great Christmas gift. What a great relief of anxiety and worry and concern and me worrying about what's going to happen and how things are going to work and what's going to go forward. There's even talk that if there's money left over, many are suggesting putting that money in an account to pay for podcasting. And so then I can just tell you I don't need anybody to give another dime because the members of the church are willing to use the money to pay off podcasting for the next few years. I don't know if it's going to work that way. And see, there's also this feeling is I don't want to get too optimistic because, well, it could all fall apart on Tuesday. But at the same time, there's a sense of relief as well. But I want to be cautiously optimistic. But I think all the feelings are somewhat intensified because of this time of year. I think in a roundabout way, Christmas seems to concentrate emotion in a way that maybe nothing else does. I think it does that to a certain degree. And is it just coincidence? Is it accidental? I don't know. I struggle with trying to figure it out. But I know for me, it is Sunday, December the 21st. As I stated 4 days before Christmas. As I stumbled through my introduction. But that stumbling through my introduction, and the dog barking in the background, all of that is perfect because I stumble through Christmas every year. I don't just stroll through Christmas. I don't ever just walk through Christmas. I struggle through Christmas every year, and I have since I was little, since the morning I woke up and my parents had abandoned me and my brother, and we were left alone, and we didn't know where our parents were, and they left, and they were gone. They were gone for Christmas. They were gone for the day after Christmas. They were gone the next day, the next day, the next day. They were gone for New Year's Eve. They were gone for New Year's, and they showed back up sometime after New Year's Day. We were just abandoned. To this day, I don't know what happened and where they went. We never were given an explanation. And all the other horrible things that happened around Christmas time as a child. I could go through all the stories. I think I've always struggled a little bit. But then, to be fair, I also have some Christmas memories that are really, really good. And they're very intense. So I've got good memories and I've got bad memories. Just keep that in mind because that plays a major part of, I think, this whole feeling about Christmas. But for me, it's Sunday evening. I always tend to become more, Sunday evenings have always impacted me in a strong way. I don't know what it is about Sunday evenings. I used to call them the Sunday night blues. I don't know. I always get a lot, I don't know. There's just a different emotion. I think that comes from when I was in the military and I was responsible basically for the 7th Medical Group. After hours, I was responsible for security. I was responsible for a lot of things. And so a lot of that time I'd be walking around. The hospital would basically be closed other than a couple of inpatient wards, but everything else, the dental clinic closed, all the outpatient clinics closed, all of those things. And I would be in, and I worked overnight. I worked from 6 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And so, on Sunday evenings, because I would work, one weekend I would have off, and then the next weekend I would work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But those Sunday evenings, walking around not the 7th Medical Group, Erling Berquist Regional Hospital. I don't remember the 7th Medical Group was another hospital I worked in the military. But when I would walk around that building, and this was located in Nebraska, Offutt Air Force Base, it would be dark. It would just be me, myself, and I walking around in the darkness of the building, walking around outside, checking everything for security reasons, making sure doors are locked, doing all of the kind of the security type stuff. And Sunday evenings, the emotions would just be stronger. A lot of just considering life, where I've gone, where I am, just where I'm going to go. And so Sunday evenings already kind of just impact me. But this Sunday, where are we? We're 4 days before Christmas. So between tonight, maybe all the way through New Year's, it's going to be an emotional up and down for me. It just always is, and it's going to be. And you add everything else going on in my life, it really is going to be an emotional ride. But it's not just me. It's many people. So that's what we're going to talk about. Not in a prepared lesson, just me wrestling and struggling through it with my own, but inviting you to be a part of it. All right? So I think it's accurate to say Christmas brings out some of the strongest emotions people experience all year. I think that's accurate to say. I think it goes from deep joy to the pit of despair. Or we can go that deep. From deep joy to the pit of despair. And I think it covers everything in between. And I think a lot of times what's conflicting about Christmas is you can go from deep joy to the pit of despair. I think the emotions can exist at the exact same time. I think that's true at Christmas. I mean, I think it can be true a lot of different times of the year. But again, Christmas intensifies that. I think you can feel grateful, but at the same time, you can feel empty. I think you can feel love, but then you can feel completely alone. I think you can feel completely hopeful, but I think you can feel completely exhausted. I think you can feel very excited, but completely defeated and despair. I think you can feel happiness, but at the same time, depression. I think you can feel all of them at the same time to some degree, especially at Christmas. And I don't think this means there's something wrong with you or something wrong with me. I think it means that we're all human beings. And we're human beings with real emotions. And yes, we may be Christians and we may have faith, but that does not deny the reality of our humanity, of our humanness. And maybe, just maybe, and this is just me thinking out loud, okay? So please don't understand what you're listening to is not me trying to dogmatically teach. It's just me thinking out loud. Maybe one of the reasons Christmas concentrates emotion so strongly is because Christmas is saturated with memory. Christmas, I think, pulls us backwards, doesn't it? I feel like it does. I mean, because Christmas is so much associated with, before you know it, you have Christmas and you have New Year's Eve. And all of that pulls us backwards, I think, in some way. Christmas will pull you back to childhood. It's almost impossible to think of Christmas and not think of your childhood, right? Isn't it almost impossible? Do you think of Christmas and not think of your childhood? Not think of the gift you got, that present you got, or a trip or something that happened? I think it's impossible to arrive at Christmas and not think of your childhood. Now, for some of you, that's wonderful. chestnuts roasting on an open fire, I don't know, walking through the snow, building a snowman. I don't know what kind of wonderful feelings. For some, that's the last place you want to go. It's like childhood is like, you have it all, you have the door locked. You've got like about 15 locks and chains, and you've got all kinds of stuff pushed against the door so it cannot be open. But Christmas comes and just blows the door open and you're right back in your childhood. And sometimes you don't want to be. It pulls you back to family traditions. It can pull you back to people who were once present, but now they're gone for whatever reason. Maybe Christmas can pull you back to those moments where you felt stable, where you felt safe, where you felt meaningful. And for some people, those memories are very comforting. For others, maybe they're painful reminders of what was but no longer is. But at the same time, sometimes those memories are not, the memories themselves make you feel unstable and not safe and not meaningful. And here's, I think, the interesting thing. I think this is factual. Do you control, maybe phrase it as a question. Do you control the memories that show up? I don't think we get to choose which memories show up. We can try to say, oh, I'm not going to think about that. But the memories appear. They show up whether you want them to be or not be, good or bad. Ones that bring sadness or one that brings happiness. Maybe we should say it this way. And again, this is just me thinking out loud. Christmas doesn't necessarily celebrate what is. It resurrects what was. In many ways, Christmas doesn't celebrate what is. It resurrects what was in some ways. And what was, and it gets mixed with what is, whether good or bad. Some people, that resurrection of what was adds to what is, and it turns into a Hallmark movie. Some people, it resurrects what was with what is, and it turns into a horror movie. So Christmas is saturated with memory. I think that's fair. I think I'm being reasonable. It doesn't matter if I'm being fair or not because I'm just sharing my thoughts, right? I'm just in real time. I'm trying to make that very clear to you. I'm not coming at you as I'm some kind of dogmatic, I'm giving you some dogmatic declaration as an expert. I'm just a human being sitting in front of a microphone on a Sunday evening, 4 days before Christmas, processing just all kinds of things. But Christmas is saturated with memory. Isn't it not? I think it's fair to say it's saturated with expectation, isn't it? I think there's kind of an unspoken sense that it's December the 21st. It's fast approaching Christmas. Doesn't it kind of give an unspoken sense that this is when things are supposed to feel right? See, this is when relationships should feel warmer, closer, stronger. When homes should feel fuller. Where joy should feel stronger or closer. When peace finally should show up, right? It's peace, right? And I think expectation is a powerful thing. And when expectation collides with reality, emotions intensify. When expectation collides with memory, add in reality, then emotions intensifies. If you add memory plus expectation, your emotions are immediately intensified. I think that's an accurate diagnosis. I think so. And it's not because our expectations are evil. It's because unmet expectations hurt. Unmet needs hurt. unmet desires hurt. So Christmas is saturated with memory. It's saturated with expectation. And I think Christmas has a way of magnifying absence. That dog's losing his mind, isn't he? And I'm starting to get very bothered by that. You see, Christmas emphasizes togetherness. It emphasizes togetherness. And then so because it does, anything missing becomes louder, right? Missing people, it's louder because it's Christmas and it's supposed to be togetherness, but you know that you're missing someone. If a relationship was and it no longer is, Christmas will make that, you'll feel that more than maybe at any other time. Christmas will magnify instability. If you're missing stability, Christmas will magnify that. It will magnify missing health. If your health is bad, I think it becomes more magnified during Christmas. Money issues. Man, money issues are bad, whether it's September, whether it's October. But man, I think money issues you get around Christmas time, I think you feel it even more. Right? It's Christmas. At least for me, it's like, and maybe it's because of things that happened in my childhood, but it gets Christmas. I always think, like, I want to be able to just get something that's my, like, I feel like I should get a present of some kind because of Christmas, something I really, really want, something I will really, really enjoy, right? But then if you don't have the money for it, it just makes it, I don't know, it intensifies it. I don't know. Maybe that's my own because of my, we all have our own issues. So maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I know this. I think this is fair to say. Money issues are intensified. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think a sense of meaning, purpose, I think if it's missing, it's intensified during Christmas. Now, Christmas doesn't create the absences. It doesn't create these things that are missing. It just shines light on them. And light can be very painful when it exposes what isn't there. When you turn on the light and it's all these things are gone, you look around, you're like, well, I don't have this anymore. I don't have this, and I don't have this, and I don't have this, and I don't have this. You're like, someone turn off the Christmas lights because they're exposing what you don't have, and that is horrible. Christmas doesn't create an absence. It just takes the absence and turns the volume to 100. Another thing Christmas does, I think it adds, does Christmas bring pressure? Or I don't know if it creates pressure. Doesn't it add pressure? Christmas gives you pressure. You have to show up to this or this or this or this or this or this. You have to participate. You have to smile. You have to feel something, right? I mean, shouldn't you be feeling something? I mean, it's Christmas. It's about Jesus. You've got to feel something, right? See, I think you can suffer quietly most of the year. But I think at Christmas, your suffering feels so contradictory to Christmas. And so that gives pressure, and then that pressure just makes you tired, and not just physically, but emotionally. And so you're just weary and drained and tired and frustrated and done. You just feel the weight of it even more. You may already be feeling the weight of it, but I think all of a sudden Christmas, it's just like all of a sudden, well, why? You just know it even more, and you may even feel, even if you don't articulate it that way, it feels out of place. And then you bring in the church. You bring in the church and all of this. I think inside the church, emotional weight is often intensified. I don't know if it's intentional, but it happens quietly. We use words. It's Christmas time. We describe joy, peace, hope, and light. All of these things are described constantly at Christmas. Hope, peace, light, joy, meaning. All of these things are spoken of frequently during Christmas time in church. Now, they may be biblical words. Sometimes they're not really even defined in any true theological sense. And I think a lot of times it's just spiritual language being used because we're supposed to use it at this time of year. And when you have spiritual language without any true theological clarity, well, people turn inward. That's where they're going to turn. And they're going to start asking themselves questions. Why don't I feel joyful? Why am I still anxious? Why didn't Christmas change anything? And I don't think they begin to question their expectations. I think they start questioning themselves. And I think this leads to a burden that many people begin to carry, right? Like, well, Christmas didn't work for me, and it may have worked for everyone else, but not me. And maybe I missed something, or maybe I did something wrong. People rarely blame Christmas, right? We blame ourselves. And that's when sadness turns into despair. December, Christmas, is harder for some people. For those who are alone, for those who are grieving, for those who are estranged, for those who are overwhelmed, for those who've been pretending, for those who've lost a relationship or something else. Christmas highlights contrast, and contrast can hurt. So maybe part of the reason Christmas feels so heavy is because it concentrates everything we carry all year: memory, expectation, loss, longing, and it concentrates it all into, well, maybe the 5 days of Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas, a short amount of time. And maybe the only honest thing we can do 4 days before Christmas is simply to name that reality. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm not going to try to explain it. I'm not going to rush past it. I'm just going to acknowledge it. And sometimes that's all you can do. I'm not going to try to offer any Jesus makes it all better. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. That's not my way. Now, we did talk about Christmas from a theological perspective earlier today, and I tried to look at it from a biblical perspective. I think a lot of what we've done with Christmas goes so far from the actual biblical Christmas story, and all of this other stuff creates this atmosphere of memory, expectation, intensifies, all those things we just talked about. And I think everything I just outlined, I think is accurate and is a reality. I wish, like, there's a part of me that wants to try to leave you with an answer, but I'm not going to leave you with an answer because I think sometimes we just have to, I think the answer sometimes is simply acknowledging the reality. Sometimes the answer is not what I do to fix it. The answer starts with just acknowledgement of this is an emotional time. And sometimes that is overlooked or forgotten, or you're given some kind of pressure that you're supposed to be doing this or this or this or this or this or this, and it's supposed to be something spiritual. But I don't think it ever lives up to our expectations, rarely, except when you were a child. And that brings back to Christmas is saturated with memory and it pulls us back. And then when you look to your good memories, the present doesn't quite find the magic of the past, which then leads to disappointment. And the dog is still barking. So maybe, if you're out tonight, you see all the Christmas lights, you see all the decorations, maybe someone will come knock on your door singing Christmas carols, right? I had that a couple of years ago. Maybe you're out somewhere. Maybe you go to a Christmas concert. You're going to hear all the noise of Christmas is going to be around you, right? And it's supposed to be wonderful and festive and warming. Maybe you're going to watch a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies, maybe you're going to do that. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to have all of that noise. And just maybe in the background, deep inside of you, is a dog barking. And that dog is barking memories of the past, expectations in the present, magnifying emotion, magnifying absence, putting pressure on you, and the dog just won't stop barking. And you may smile on the outside. You may show up at the Christmas gathering and everyone thinks everything's wonderful, but maybe, just maybe laying in bed at night, maybe out driving alone, maybe wherever you are, that dog's bark gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And you just have to acknowledge the emotion and the feeling that is there. Because just trying to ignore a dog barking, you can do it for a while. Sometimes you can't. I can ignore this dog barking most of the time. But when I sit down to go broadcast, I can't. Now, of course, now the dog gets quiet because the dog now is like, he's talking about me. Shh, I got to hear what he's saying, right? He's talking about me. Maybe by acknowledging our emotion, it's like, no, I'm talking about you, emotions. I see you, I acknowledge you. And maybe that's the first step. I don't know. But I know it's 4 days before Christmas, and I know before you know it, well, day 4 is going to be over, and we're going to wake up and it's going to be day 3. And before we know it, it's going to be the day of, and then it's going to be the day after, and then it's going to be 2026. And in life, because the one thing we know is no matter what we feel about Christmas or we want Christmas to be, it ends quickly. And it just marks the end of another year. And then we move on through all the other difficulties we wrestled through throughout the year. And a lot of things we wrestled through throughout the year, I think they feel different than when we wrestle with them 4 days before Christmas. God bless.